Good, we are live. Ciao, Gill, how are you?
I'm very well this morning, thank you, Giovanni, from a very cold northwest of England, but at least the frost is clearing.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we have a similar situation here. It's, as you can see, outside we have a lot of wind going on, and it's pretty cold. So yeah, it's the same in all Europe, I guess. All right. So, what are you going to do today? What's the project? I see this beautiful large project, and you told me it's going to be a little different today. So, tell us a bit about it.
So I made this, I like to make a sample so I know where I'm going before I do a live. And I grabbed a 20 centimetre by 60 centimetre canvas, made the project, and then realised that actually it won't all fit on screen for demoing. So decided that wasn't great. So I've got a smaller canvas, which is 6 by 12, and we're going to use the same concepts as this, but slightly different sizes to make a mixed media canvas, which is something I don't think you or anyone at Stamperia has actually seen me do live, because I usually do lots of paper crafts and scrapbooking type projects. So I'm gone back a little bit to my roots by doing this.
Wonderful, wonderful. Absolutely, sounds good.
So I'll pop that one out.
This is very mixed media. Love it.
It's definitely mixed media. There's no question about it. So good morning, everyone. I do trust that you're well wherever you are in the world. I can see lots of people arriving from all around the place. My project is based around alchemy, which I've had some in my stash really since the first time it was ever released. And I'm going to be using a mixture of projects, and I thought I'd go through the codes as I use them. So I have a beautiful piece of rice paper, which is DSA 4665. Okay, so the rice papers make for really great backgrounds in a quick and simple way, but I'm not going to just use the whole rice paper because it doesn't really completely fit on. I've got gaps at the top and the bottom, which is something you'll often find. So you need to be creative with how you make rice papers fit. And I'm literally just going to, I want the swirly images. Okay. So I've got my two thumbs basically guiding where I'm pulling the paper apart. Now you could use water to do this, but by using your the two thumbs to do it, you can get a controlled tear anyway.
Okay, I was just about to ask you the same, if you wet the paper or not. All right.
No, I haven't, but you know, it's easy enough to do either which way, depending on what you want to do with your pieces. And the little piece I've pulled off, I will use somewhere else, of course. Okay. And then I have got a pot of mixed media glue, DC28M, which I think is loved by everyone. And all I'm going to do is add a good load of glue to my canvas.
Okay.
So I can pop my rice paper down. I'm not worried about where it goes. Well, I am worried about where it goes, but it doesn't matter if it covers more. What I want is a nice good layer so that the paper sticks nicely. And then I'm going to pop this up over the top so it goes down the sides of my canvas and covers those. So there we are. We'll pop that down. And I can trim off those edges later on, so don't worry about that. And then I'm going to use the same mixed media glue to seal everything in place so that when I want to add other layers over the top, then it's not going to be a problem for me. And it protects seals it in, and it protects it, and it allows me to add lots of different mediums.
Okay.
So that, and then I'm going to repeat that on the bottom for the other piece. So in effect, I've stretched my rice paper to fit my canvas, and you can do that for pretty much any size canvas just by taking one piece of rice paper and separating it out judiciously to get the look that you want.
Okay.
Yeah. So that just needs to be in place.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't got envelope today with all of my pieces already cut in, but I have got them all cut out, ready to use. So there we are. So that's making sure that it really does have a good layer of blue on it. Yeah. Now, obviously, in an ideal world, at this point, you might just choose to leave this to dry naturally, but we are not working in an ideal world. And I'm going to add some paint now to this to start to blend in the edges of the papers into the canvas. So I've chosen Matone KAL20 and Biscotto KAL43 to sort of give me a rusty type base to work on. And all I've done is put some blobs of the paint onto a paper plate, and I've picked it up with the flat of my palette knife, so the back of it. I'm popping it in the middle, and I've got my thing flat, and I'm literally just going to go up and down, spread the...
Wow, this is a nice technique with scratching with the setting. Okay, nice.
Yeah, it evens things out and makes life easier, and you get this sort of scattered effect on the side rather than it all being, you know, uniform across things, and it helps again to just disperse things in, and obviously you do the sides as you wish to. But for this technique, it's quite important that you do use the flat of the knife, rather than using it on the side. It needs to be flat down onto the canvas.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to mix these two colors again.
Let me say hello. We have a good morning. So, Massimo, come back. Never mind. Okay, he just wanted to say a quick good morning. All right.
So that's absolutely fine, because in a minute I'm going to need to put that dreaded thing a heat tool on, because because I need to really dry it before I add a layer of stenciling to it. So I've added my colours. Hopefully I've not got too thick layers, and blended them a bit, and I can still see parts of my rice paper peeking through. So like all mixed media projects, this is a project where you layer all of your elements to get your final result, and it will inevitably they go through a stage of looking quite messy while you're building up the layers. Let me say, excuse me while I actually.
Oh, absolutely. Take your time. All right, so you're going to use the envelope first.
Yeah, I want to add a layer of stencil to this. I have got a canvas pre-prepared but I need to demonstrate all the steps. This one needs to be dry before I do that. So it might be a nice time for maybe just making sure everyone knows that we're watching, that we're very grateful for that they're watching us, that if they like and share a pizza, they could win and tag a friend, that they can win a pizza box maybe for a friend, which is a lovely thing for people to be able to do. So maybe suggest someone who's been having a tough time, who might not normally be able to afford some of the Stamperia projects, you know, so that they can explore this wonderful world, would be lovely. And one of the things that happens naturally, if you've got thick layers of paint and then you force dry it, is the acrylic tends to split and crackle on its own. So that adds another interesting effect to your piece. So
Absolutely.
need it
And
to
then,
be a little
absolutely.
bit drier than.
May I
Go
ask
on.
you, did you see the new collection, sir?
Pardon?
Did you see the new collection, sir?
I absolutely have seen the new collections. I am going to be hard pushed to choose which ones I want to get first, because there's no question in my mind. Will be a question of which ones I get first, rather
Okay.
than which ones I don't buy. I think they will all get bought at some stage, but I just need to manage the finances like everyone else in this world. So I will be making some selections carefully. So I've taken gold crackle paste. You could use the red gold crackle paste, an ordinary a clear crackle paste for this technique, depending on what result you want. But I've got the gold one, which is K3P55, and a pretty much well loved pack set, and I'm picking that up on the back, and I'm just going to break up some of this now with some stenciled words. So this stencil comes from the Alchemy collection, and it is, I believe, KSTD095. It might be one of the others, but because again, one of the easy things about obviously working with a collection is that everything is designed to work pretty much together, and that makes life much easier for everyone. And this will help. Oops, she says, put these in. And again, on this, so with the paint, I had my palette knife flat. With this, I've actually got it at 45 degrees, so rather than completely flat. So I've now added some crackle paste to that. That can go into a pot of water on the floor, and I'm going to disguise some of these edges again just by smearing in some crackle paste around the face, and it will crackle and blend. And again, it just all helps to blend stuff into each other. So there we are.
Okay.
And here where I've got a lot of that paint, I might add a little bit more just to break it up a little bit. There we are. I think that will do for the time being.
Okay.
So that I'm now going to pop to dry, but as I say, I have got one pre-prepared anyway. So that is that part of the project, and that's my base made. And having made a base, I'm not going to leave it that colour. You then need to think about what you're going to add on as embellishments.
Okay.
And so I have taken a collection of moulds, a large collection of moulds, and some of the extra light soft clay, K3P58, which I've used for the impression moulds, and I'd use some resin for the bigger pieces or the deeper pieces that I'm going to use to construct my piece. So that's the clay that I've used, and then I've used the impression mat with the words on it, which is K3PTA 5609.
All right.
I've also used K3PTA 5607. And just as a word of caution to everyone, this mold has some beautiful dimensional elements, the owls in particular, the hand and the heart. And if you fill that with the cream paste, it does dry eventually, but you've got quite a thick layer, so it takes quite a long time to do so. So my suggestion is that for the deeper areas, you really use mold or clay rather than the cream paste. If you're going to fill the whole thing, then the cream paste is better for the thinner areas. So
okay, thanks for the suggestion.
I've taken one of the very old alchemy molds, and I don't have the number of that because it came with different packaging, but it's the one with a lovely owl, small owl, and the constellation world on it, and it's got some beautiful other focal imagery. So that's as I say, an very old mold, but I think it's still available. And then I've also taken elements from the alchemy numbers mold, which is K3 PTA 4524. So lots of different pieces there. And I've got, as I say, a lot of them pre-painted. So I'm going to go through this in steps. So this is just one of the pieces from one of the texture molds that I've taken out and then cut out the individual elements. So I've got lots of different tiles, and I've covered all of the tiled pieces with anthracite, which is KAL88.
Okay.
So bear with me while I do that, because that provides a base for working with these pieces. So just bear with me, because I do need this piece for later on, so I need to get it covered. And you don't need to be, it is important, I think, to get rid of all of the white. Maybe use a brush that's a little bit older, so that then you can push it into all of the little details, because these molds have got lots of intricate details, and it's easier to just scrubble the brush in rather than trying to paint it delicately. And I'm going to have filthy hands at the end of this, so I do apologize, everyone. But
it's part of mixed media, right? Darker colors, dirty hands.
It definitely is part of mixed media, and and it's why I often for lives just do paper projects. But having done an alchemy album, about 10 days ago now on a live, I thought I would use something completely different, do a completely different style of crafting. So that can go there. So once you've done your base colouring, I've then added some Morgagno, so the mahogany, which is KAL503, to the top of that. And I haven't been terribly fussy with this layer, because I've got the base layer of black, of the anthracite, which is soft, a little bit softer than black. Actually, it doesn't matter if this layer is not so perfectly covered, because we're going to be layering up anyway. So that can sit there, that can sit there. And then I have my beautiful owl from the mold, and I'm just going to add a mixture of the mahogany and also matone to this to bring out some of the elements. And at the end of it, I will be using waxes anyway, so it won't, the detail will be highlighted again. But I think it's just nice to be able to blend the colours, and you can see that it is about blending them. It's not about having a single colour here. I'm literally mixing them as I paint, really, as much as anything else. I want it down in some of the layers, but there we are. So I might just add, for some good measure, some highlights. So I've got a real mixture of tonally correct for an owl. I think, well, it's up to your imagination how you see it, isn't it? But there we are. So he can then sit and dry. Okay. And he's a real mixture. And by adding the colours, you just get a different depth rather than keeping it all flat. So that's why I've mixed them all up, and that can go over there. Just bear with me while I get the worst of that off my hands, because I needed some contrast on my layering elements. So the other mold that has been primed here, which has been primed with white gesso, K3P088N, is going to be covered in gold sand. which is KAL51.
It's interesting how, even though all the colors seem to be quite bright, the final result ends up being darker, right? Or is it just my impression?
No, that's where, again, a product that I think people will rarely see me use will come to hand. I'm going to take some of the vintage antiquing wax and paste and mute everything down with that. And certainly the canvas is going to be muted down with that. And this piece will be, because it will also help to bring out the details. And as I say, it's all about the layering. Now, I know that there are individuals who are on lots of pots number or tubes of antiquing paste, but I have to confess, I'm only on my first one, because it's a bit messy and it's not something I go to very often. And I'm going to have to go and reach for my terps in a minute, because I've left that on the side, but that won't be impossible to get to. There we are. So I've got a layer of that, hopefully into all of the nooks and crannies, and that can sit there and dry. So having done that, while I just wipe that, I can pop that plate of paint out of harm's way, because otherwise I shall be in trouble.
Okay.
There we are.
Do you wash your hands right away, or do you wait for a while between, do you wait to be done?
It depends. If I'm going from light to dark, then I'm going to, or vice versa. I make sure I've cleared the worst off my hands, because otherwise you transfer the colours, and that's not such a great thing to do.
Yeah.
I've also chosen some of the decorative chips for embellishing my project and adding yet another textural element. And these are SCB 112, and I've covered them with the mahogany paint to start with. And I don't want them to be brown ultimately, so I've got some glamour pigment, which is KAPGO2. And I'm literally just going to brush this over my piece, which will soften that down. And again, it's not about necessarily being completely even coverage, but I wanted a little bit more colour on it. And suns are more gold, aren't they? And you can see, I'm using a brush that you really don't need very much. And that bit that I've got here will go absolutely everywhere if I'm not very careful. So I'm going to wipe that up out of my way.
All right, perfect.
So those are those. Then I have got some paper elements in my make. This is from the 8x8 paper pad SBB S51, and on the back, on the proper side of it, there are all of these beautiful images for cutting out, and I've taken some of those images and one I've trimmed down. So I'm going to now add carefully that to the center, and because I've added the glamour pigment on the top, if I just splodge this all around and then paint over it too indelicately, all that will happen is I will get the glamour pigment transferring. So I'm just using some mixed media glue to pop that in there, and again I'm going to wash it down. Maybe I was a bit too impatient with that. There we are. That piece can go onto there.
Do you think you need to be very precise, or it doesn't really matter?
It's really up to the style that you use and that you like. I think that this paper collection works for both very precise and for not so precise works. So those pieces are just going to tuck into there. So it just shows that you can take your die cut imaging and your chipboards and then further enhance them as you go. And if you pick up a little bit of the glamour paste, the glamour pigment with the glue, you can see that actually you then add another layer of the glamour pigment to it, and it sticks with the glue. So you've got a very pale soft layer as the base, and then you've got a bit more, and it helps visually join the paper that I've added to the die cut, the paper piece. So that's going there. It's going there. So
Okay.
there we are. So we might now need to grab actually a heat tool to dry this, because whilst we've got the antiquing paste out, we might as well do both pieces of that. So I'm just going to pop my heat gun there, and I just need to go and grab my solvent to mixing the antiquing paste with. So sorry about that, ladies. I've got to put it out. But to me, it makes sense to have this out and do all of this bit at one point or in one go. I get this dry or almost dry.
All right, yeah. So the line is breaking up a little bit, but just because the streaming is adapting to the drying. So don't worry if you see it coming and going. It will be back in a second.
I can move my camera down if people want me to.
Absolutely fine.
In fact, I will just move it down a little bit because you'll get better views, I think. So sorry, ladies, if you're going to go seasick while I do that. So let's put that out the way, that out the way, that out the way. Right, excellent, good. So I do have a tube of Antonis's vintage antiquing paste, KAOLBR, and I'm just going to squidge some into this well-used pot. Make sure that's on, and I'm going to thin it down. Use whatever solvent base that you've got for doing that. And then you need a well-abused KR86, a Sandarino, really sort of coarse-haired brush that allows you then to push everything into all of the nooks and crannies. And I'm now going to mute my background down quite considerably, and you've got a lot of control here. So my crackle paste that I did yesterday has dried and it's crackled beautifully. So I'm going to soften my brush, which is well abused, in the solvent, and pick up that, and literally just going to cover it over.
All right. Just one note. Careful, because the vintage paste is based on oil, and so it also dries slower, giving you the time to change anything you might think needs to be fixed. All right. So just a little note.
Yes, I mean, it's a great product for giving an aged effect to things. You know, when I made the canvas, made my background, then actually, I made sure I had put mixed media glue over the top of the rice papers and over most of the canvas, so that that protects it. Because if you don't add something, then particularly to the paper elements, the paint will wipe off anyway. That's never going to be a problem. But over the rice paper element, you absolutely need to have those protected before you take up any of the antiquing paste to them. And what this will do is twofold. It allows me to meld all of the colours together, and it's also letting me get into all of the cracks that are in the crackle paste, which has crackled beautifully. I mean, I definitely prefer to let my crackle paste dry naturally rather than heat setting it, but it will heat set. It's just my choice to let it do that. And I've got a couple, just a very unenvironmentally friendly approach, but some baby wipes, and now I can add.
Very nice.
And take back where I want to. So it adds again another layer of texture, another layer of detail to my piece, and it mutes the background in. And I possibly could have done with a bit more of the mixed media glue on the surface of that, but it doesn't matter. It's an antiqued aged effect, and it helps you highlight everything at that point. And I am going to clean my hand because that will get everywhere if I don't do that. Having said that, what did I forget to do? I forgot to add it to my other piece, which is the whole purpose of doing the two. And you'll see how this, you need to make sure this is dry before you. But this will,
what
again,
are you doing now? What is this paste?
This is just the antiquing paste over the gold sand paint on the resin. Again, because the beautiful sort of pale gold sand color paint is lovely, but it doesn't fit with the overall style of the project. So again, this is about layering so that your whole project is cohesive. If I just put the plain unaltered piece on the top, then actually it would stand out like a sore thumb and just look completely wrong and not work with my pieces. And you can take off as much as or a little as you want, but it's now in all of the little nooks and crannies, and the white paint has got the gold paint has got a softer, more aged effect. So that's going to go back.
We have a question from the public. Is that the yellow resin or the white resin that you're using?
It's clear resin that I've then painted.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I use clear resin, or you could use white resin. It's up to you. I then primed it with gesso, added the gold stand paint, and then I've added the antiquing paste over the top. You can see now that that piece has contrast with my background, but it looks as if it's part of it rather than just being plonked on the top, if that makes sense. So I have some little pieces, all sorts of pieces here that I've cut out, and now I just need to layer some of these pieces together, on my project. So I will need to do just a little bit, with the pieces that I painted earlier. I just need to add some brown to that one, it's the black stripe, and then I can start putting all of the pieces together onto my project. Now I would normally use a gel medium, a glossy gel, to do this. These are quite lightweight pieces, so you possibly could get away with just using ultra forte glue, but I'm going to put them where I want them, or approximately where I want them, and then I'm going to sort of build a composition around this, layering the elements up in almost an arc, and I'm not going to be afraid to mix them up. So I'm building layers as I go. So I want that piece there. We'll have that piece on there. I know that I'm going to want to have this piece sort of here.
Okay.
And sort of not there. So all I'm doing is literally building a pattern that I like for my that suits my eyes. So I've got that piece can go there, and
so there is
I'm
an
going
order. There is this half moon order that you made. Really, really cool. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. There's it's about building the layers and having pieces that work together. That piece can tuck under there. We've got some more elements that can come up here. And in amongst this, I know that I have my two chipboard pieces. So that piece is going to sit there, tucked underneath there. And I'm not afraid to have my piece, my elements popping in and popping out of my collection, of what I'm making. And let me just get you right, and that will ultimately go onto there. So we need a little bit, some bits to support this and some additional areas of interest, and that's why I've sort of laid this out as I have. And now I'm going to add some extra bits. So all I've done is cut some elements from the papers. I'm adding some ink to the edges of those, and we will take a brush and we're going to add these pieces to the top, and that piece is going to sit underneath there, so that and what I'm doing by doing this is linking all of my pieces so that nothing is just an orphan sitting on its own. So that piece can come down there. Now that now is sitting on its own, but it ties with the one at the top. So visually, I like that. It pulls me down the counter. So I can got another piece that I can add into there. And then that, again, links the whole pieces together.
Okay.
I've got some words, so some numbers from the pad. These are really great little additions just for adding some extra information. So that piece can go into there. And again, it's helping just build a story together. So that piece can sit underneath there.
Yeah.
That will work under that.
I don't know if you're reading the comments, but they're all saying what a wonderful job you're doing. It's they're loving your creation.
Thank you, ladies. It's I love creating. I have to say that I think as long as if you love what you do, and I love getting messy and I love playing with paint and paper and things, then life becomes very much a joy. And don't be afraid to hide things. So I've added some numbers, I've added some paper elements. I just need those to settle themselves down a little bit, and they just need a little bit of time for that glue to properly grab, and it will do if you're patient, which of course lives are not the easiest things to be patient with, but hey ho, if push comes to shove, I will glue them with a hot glue gun. So I've now got all of these elements sort of where I want them, and they need to they need a little bit of support, and we need some extra color adding to them. So bit by bit, I'm going to just add all of these pieces. And as I say, I generally would use a gel medium, so the glossy gel, or maybe because these are paper clay, ultra forte glue.
Yeah.
But given that we are under a little time constraints, I'm actually going to just use some hot glue to get these in place, because they're going to set more quickly by doing that, and that will make life easier all the way along the line. And the other advantage is it actually has some dimensions, so it will get into the nooks and the crannies of the piece below, so that again will help, in terms of building what I'm doing.
Very well.
Yeah, so that can go under there. It might help if if the words were up the right way, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
There we are. So this is one of the joys of hot glue. Of course, it gets everywhere, but it will give me instant stick, which will make life a little bit easier at this point. And I suggest that I don't think any crafter will ever make something like this exactly the same, twice. So I think, if you just have your pieces and then lay them out so that they look attractive to you, then that's actually all that really matters. In the grand scheme of things, this is your project, isn't it? It's not my project, it's your project. So, it's as long as you like the end result, then actually
adapting, right?
really
Adapting
matters.
your idea to the project.
Yeah, absolutely. Be kind to yourself, because actually most things are easily adaptable. You don't have to have everything always exactly the same. Show me a crafter that can make some, unless it's a very simple project where everything will be, where it's going to be identical the next time. I certainly know that it's not something I can achieve. I like to mix and match and layer what I'm doing. So that one escaped the glue last time, so we'll pop that piece there. And part of this is because actually I have got the oil paint underneath.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help with any glue sticking. So again, adapt what you have to what you've got. There we are, that can go there. There we are. So the nice thing about the texture plate is that that goes with these collections is you have so many different elements that you can use and mix and match. Yes, so just because I'm using lots of them on here, ultimately you use the elements you want. You can use it as a whole piece. You can chop them up as I've done. On the original canvas, I actually used an awful lot of the bigger resin pieces, but it was a much bigger project.
Yes. Okay. So it fits differently, but it's
absolutely. So I'm going to pop. I think that's going to sit there. I never know which is the right way up for that, so I'm going to pop that there.
Oh well, right. I mean, these astral bodies keep on moving around, so
well, you can see that even having sort of set them out how I wanted them, as I'm making the project, actually it's adapting slightly to what's going on, and that's just again part of what happens when you make projects like this. You have to adapt them. Now if I just pop this piece here, it's going to wobble badly, so I'm actually going to help it by adding a little piece, because that's going to provide a bit more support to the piece and make it more secure. So that can pop down there.
Okay.
There we are. And then that one, because then I've got that. So you could use just a a chunk of soft clay if you wanted to build that up. That would work reasonably well. So that piece is going to come into here, and that will help stability at that point.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So this is about sort of building as you go, being content with what's going on. That piece is so here I've just got a very tiny little piece of that showing, and that to me is enough. I'd rather like something extra there, and I think on the original piece I probably had that, but I don't like that here, so I'm just going to add that one into there.
Okay.
Yeah. So that piece will there, and it's supported by two elements, the resin and also by the clay that's there. I have some extra pieces that I can add or not as I choose to. So at the moment, I'm thinking actually that this is looking reasonably okay. Do I want to add that? I think it takes away from some of the other pieces. So I'm going to leave that now like that and stabilize this piece because it's wobbly. And as I've got this clay to hand, I'm actually going to pop that underneath there. I'll chop a little piece of it off because again, it's to hand, it will help support it in place. So that can go there.
Okay, wonderful.
You could use pieces of cardboard, you could use offcuts of the chipboard. Really, it's it's entirely up to you what you're going to what you choose to add. So that will sit comfortably there. I still think that's because I've got this extra piece here. I still need a little bit more on here. So let me just add another piece of that to there. You see, it's all about using what you've got. And that will help give it some stability. There we are. And then that piece is now stable on there, so I can add some glue to it. Now, as I say, these pieces, in an ideal world, you would be using gel medium for this rather than just the hot glue. But the hot glue is much quicker for during a live. And then I have my owl that I want to put in here. And I can pop him there, but I actually want to integrate him. So he's going to go onto there ultimately. Okay. So now I'm going to leave the wooden shapes off. So now I've got my dark brown pieces looking just as if they're a bit orphaned. They've been put on, they tell a story. We've got a nice moon shape, but it's all a bit black and brown, and the background is softer. And I wanted to add some blue into the mix. And this painting technique is really, really, really difficult. Not. Because literally what I've got is the turquoise glamour pigment. And all I'm going to do, you can see that it's a really difficult technique, this, isn't it? Really difficult. Is add some bits of this around the place. And you can add as you want. It will go a long way. So just be aware that it will go a long way. And then before I do the next thing and have that everywhere, I am going to put the lid on it because I'm now going to take And this is why I chose to use hot glue, because I knew I was going to spray. There we are. So you now have lots of extra detail added to your piece. You can add a bit more as you go, but this is just a very dry fan brush, so add little bits as you go. You can spray again. So all I'm doing is using my my mediums basically to add the color. Now, what my only comment is that because these are just being spread with the water, they are sitting on the surface rather than necessarily integrated into the whole of the project. So it is absolutely worth you getting a spray varnish to set everything in place. So that needs a good dry. But so whilst let's try it, because I can't add any waxes over the top of this until I've got a drier surface. The deeper areas don't matter, but the surface areas definitely do need to be covered.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and I'm actually mopping some up because I've got such a lot of water on here. It's going to take forever. But
It's
you can
looking
see,
amazing, and it's really taking shape. Like the colors are really popping out.
yeah, and it's just such a simple thing to do. Yeah, I've got an area here that really doesn't have very much on it, so I'm just going to add a little bit more there because I think it looks a bit as it is. But there we are. So you add and go, but it's not. You can see that it doesn't take a skilled artist to then have the piece with a lot of detail added to it, that the texture's brought up. And because I've just sprinkled those powders on, I've now got them at every layer on the whole project, so that they all work together. Now, it wouldn't be a project without some waxes, and I've got a selection of those here to add. Now, so I think that the moon is still a bit, or the orbit is a little bit darker than lighter than I want. So I've just got a little bit of black. This is the black pearl or metallic black Cerantica K3P15, and again it just is, the piece is a bit wet, so it's not, you can see how it just adds a little bit of a sheen to some of those areas and mutes it down. Now then, so for the owl, I've got copper and gold Ceranticas, and I'm just going to add, because the base is predominantly the brown shades, actually the color that's going to work most for highlighting the detail is the gold. You can add whatever you want. So then he sits there, and I've got all of these extra surfaces here, across the whole of my piece. So now we will just add bits of color again, helping. Yeah. So it just allows you to add and to be detailed, and there we are. And I think mixing them, matching the colors really again helps matters, rather than it just being a single color.
Okay.
So there we are. So these in there. There we are. So my owl now needs to sit here. So That would be typical, wouldn't it? Then I've now run out of hot glue, but that's fine because we've almost done. So I'm just going to take a big glob of the gel medium on a palette knife.
Okay.
And this is just a fabulous consistency, and it will help this integrate, all of these nooks and crannies that I'm putting it onto. Again, it's going to help secure it in place. So there we are.
In the comments, doing a better job than me, reminding everyone that, to like and share this post. Okay, please remember so we keep on growing the community. And if you know other crafters, tell them to join the lives. We really want to reach as many crafters in the world as possible. Okay, sorry, Jill. Up to you.
It's okay. Don't you worry. It's really important, isn't it, that we spread our passion to lots of other people. And we encourage people to not be afraid of getting their fingers dirty, cutting up their paper pads. It's just an excuse to buy more than one in my book. If you've got if you've cut one up, you just buy another one to replace it. I know we have budgets and we need to be mindful of that, and I'm a very lucky young lady, but even so there we are. And I think I want a little bit more gold on here. So essentially, Giovanni, that's my project is pretty much completed now. I've got my all of my elements in place. I've got, put the lids on the right ones. I've got all of my structure. Yes, my owl isn't highlighted with any blue, but to link that back in, as I say, because it is about layering, I can then add, if I can see what I've done with it, a little bit of blue wax just around the eyes, and that little touch will just make the eyes pop a little bit more, and again visually link the whole pieces together. So that completes my project, which Wonderful. In an hour is actually, I think, pretty amazing, even if I do say so myself.
Well, you are right. Those are the words I would have used myself. So it is pretty amazing, and it's really nice. Look, everybody's impressed in the comments. They are commenting on how beautiful it is and what a perfect collection you chose for this project. So in less than an hour, we are at 57 minutes and 41 seconds. You did a wonderful task. So congratulations.
Thank you. So ladies, if I know I had quite a lot of these pieces pre-prepared, but actually it didn't take a ridiculous amount of time to paint the pieces because there was nothing complex about the painting, as I'm sure you'll agree. So one mixed media canvas in an hour. Yes, it's a little bit of prep, but I think it's worth the results.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it really is. So everybody in the comments is really impressed by the owl, the colors, the project in general. They ask, can you show it a little bit closer, please? Wow, look at that. Look at the details. Look at how everything stands out on its own. And lots of ideas for a mixed media project. Yes.
Yeah. Once the surface is properly dry, I will go back in and add some more wax to pull out some of the more details, and then I will photograph it and put it up on the page so that people can see it and have a look at it in more detail, because it's quite difficult, I think, when things are wet and shiny to have them so well displayed at this point in the process. There we are.
The owl is getting a lot of love. Okay.
It's a very old it's one of the original molds I think I first bought, so it's it's definitely an older mold. The Antonissimo owls would work, but you need that bigger canvas to do that with.
Absolutely.
Go.
So remember, go follow Gill on social media. You can find her name here. Wait a second. So if you look for her name, you will find her on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and
Not on YouTube, Giovanni. I haven't done that one.
well, you have to do it. It's you will be the most popular YouTuber in the world. I'm sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Jill, thank you so much for your time, and I
You're
hope to see
very
you soon with another beautiful project.
I'm sure Lucrezia can arrange a time with me for another one in one or two in February if it's wanted.
It's wanted for sure. So, what do you think? Should I play the presentation of Savannah to close the live? What do you think?
You could indeed. Or do you know the pizza box winner?
Oh, right. Sorry. So the pizza box winner is there we go. Mitch Steerfrog.
Oh,
she's a very active
congratulations,
member.
Mitch. Absolutely. And she's a very regular watcher. So well done, Mitch. I'm not sure if you're watching at the moment, but congratulations. You will love what's in the boxes because will be absolutely packed.
I don't see her watching. I'm checking if she's in the comments. Mitch, if you're watching, you won. Congratulations. All right.
I have a feeling. I think she might come from Australia, in which case it's the small hours of them. It's very late at night for her, or I think that's right. So, but I'm sure one of her friends can let her know.
There she is. We got. She is watching right now. Very well. Very well.
Very good. Congratulations. Okay.
So, see everybody soon. Thank you for reminding me about the pizza winner, and see you next time. Ciao, Jill.
Okay, take care. Thank you very much. Take care and everyone have a safe day.
Hola, soy Cristina Radovan de Barcelona, pertenezco a la familia Stamperia como teacher y diseñadora y estoy súper feliz de poder enseñaros hoy nuestra quinta colección juntos, Savannah. Savannah también es supervivencia, lucha. Savannah es al fin lo que os transmita, lo que queráis. Tiene tantos productos diferentes y tantos colores y tantos estilos, con este pad de fondos, por ejemplo, de backgrounds, que es maravilloso, con los papeles de scrap. Los sellos, los stencils. Podéis crear proyectos súper diferentes entre ellos, desde un atardecer en la sabana a un guiño a las pinturas, a las figuras rupestres. Por ejemplo, potenciando alguno de los animales de poder tan fuertes como el rinoceronte. Savannah nos habla con sus colores tan potentes, nos habla de texturas, de tejidos, de formas geométricas, de las primeras pinturas, nos habla de razas, de tribus. Emiten tanta fuerza que yo creo que con esta colección os vais a poner a crear. Por mi parte, he dado lo mejor de mí. Pienso que ha salido una colección maravillosa, preciosa, que espero que os guste y la disfrutéis muchísimo y que la tengáis muy pronto en vuestras tiendas favoritas. Adiós.